Good morning and welcome to our webinar. This is an Introduction to Government Contracting webinar. My name is James Forrest and I'm the Program Coordinator for Norcal PTAC. Today is PTAC Day. I'll talk about what that means in a second, but just a brief introduction. Like I said, I'm the Program Coordinator and we're also lucky to have our very own Program Director today, Christina Kunkel. So Norcal PTAC, let me talk about what it is that we are coordinators and directors of. PTAC is part of a network of centers across the country. I'll talk specifically about Norcal PTAC in a second. What's going on with the slides? But first I want to talk about this network. So they've been around since the 70s. There's about 94 of them across the country. Some of them close and open, so that number shifts around a bit. But as you can see on the map here, we've got 7 of them just in California alone. And what we do is we are nonprofit centers and we help businesses compete and succeed in the government marketplace. We have a team of procurement specialists and we collect applications from clients, public or small business owners, and then we help them go out and get contracts. All of our services are no cost. They don't cost anything. They're funded by federal, state, and local grants contracts. And here's a nice little fact here. In 2019 alone, PTACs across the country served 57,000 clients and helped them win more than $24 billion in government contracts and subcontracts. So zooming in on our, you know what, I don't see, do we not have our specific PTAC? Are you going to go over that later, Christina?
I thought it was there, but it looks like it's out of order. It's the next slide. So skip ahead and then come back.
All right.
Sorry about that.
We'll do a little time traveling, no worries. So Norcal PTAC, it stands for the Northern California Procurement Technical Assistance Center. And here we have a map that's a bit zoomed in here. These are our 15 counties that we cover. So if you are in this service area, if you have a business with an address in this service area, what I say here about our program applies to you because we are inviting you to apply. We can accept pretty much any client that you have an established business and you're capable of getting into the government contracting field and you have an address in our service area. We are hosted by the Humboldt State University Sponsored Programs Foundation. And in 2020, we helped our clients win more than $314 million in government contracts, which is, we're happy to say, was twice as much as we did in 2019. So we're hoping to keep that trajectory. Everyone knows that we need more dollars to be going into small businesses' hands. So this is what we do. We do it with one-on-one counseling. We have a team of procurement specialists that can help you walk through just about any topic related to government contracting. So marketplace research, going out and actually finding competitors, finding the bids themselves, compliance, all sorts of issues with government. If you can think of it, we can help with it pretty much, as long as it's related to contracting. If you are a client of ours, meaning you apply through our website, you can also ask your procurement specialist for a bid matching profile. What this does is basically you work out some criteria with your counselor, and then every morning you wake up with a list of procurement opportunities, and you can bid on them if they look good to you. So that's a pretty neat way to stay on top of all those chances out there. And then, of course, as you know, because you're all here today, we offer resources and trainings. So these are free to join always and free to join for anyone. So I saw someone was from Texas. We get folks from different parts of California. Yesterday I had people from New York, all over the place. These are just for everyone. So you don't have to be a client, you don't have to be in a service area. But the first 2 benefits we offer are for our clients. And we do need an application on file, and you do need to be in our service area. But the application's super easy, norcalptac.org, click on the red Apply Now button. And if you're not in our service area, you can click on that second link, APTAC-US, and you can find your PTAC. It has a listing of all the PTACs across the country, so you can find your state in the drop-down menu and go from there. Just another note that, yes, you can't click on those hyperlinks right now, but you will get the slides later today. I'll post them to our website and email everyone with a link, and we'll also be posting the recording that we do. In fact, we're recording right now. So we will have a Q&A session later. I believe we're going to have 2, actually, one in the middle of the presentation and one at the end. So as soon as you have a question pops into your mind, just put it right in the Q&A window there. There's a Q&A and a chat. We can use the chat for technical issues or networking, whatever works for you. But if you want a question read aloud to Christina so she can answer it, type it into the Q&A, and we'll get to those halfway point and at the end. And that'll be a nice way we can all track the questions together. So thanks everyone once again for joining, and let's get started. I give you Christina Kunkel, Program Director.
Okay, thank you, James. Thanks so much for the opportunity. I'm actually going to go back 2 slides. We're a little out of order today. This is, well, here we go, our disclosure slide. So yes, I'm Christina Kunkel. I'm the Program Director for the Norcal PTAC. So happy to be with you here today on PTAC Day. Everything that I say today is accurate to the best of my knowledge, but government contracting rules and regulations can change really rapidly. So we put this in here, especially for the people who might be watching this recording afterward. Today is September 15th, and this is to the best of my knowledge today. Okay, so today is a very high level overview on how to do business with the government. You're going to see a lot of links in here. Again, like James said, we're going to share the slides. So don't worry, you'll be able to click on all these links. And pretty much every slide that I show you could probably be its own 1-hour presentation or more. And some of them, I'll point this out, like I might have a list of certifications, and each certification on that list could be its own 1-hour presentation. So this is a very high level overview to give you kind of a taste of government contracting. What we're going to cover is what is government contracting. I'll help you decide, should you sell to the government, and identify which agencies buy what you sell. Also, how do you identify opportunities? How do you market yourself? And finally, how you get support. So first, what is government contracting? This is something that our clients ask us all the time, especially our new clients or people who are just hearing about us. I think that, you know, it sounds really complex, it sounds really complicated, but it's really just finding a different customer. And that customer is a city, a county, state of California, a different state, the federal government. That's all it is. It's just selling to a different customer. And that customer has different rules and regulations for you to follow. They have a lot more paperwork than you're used to. And that's what we're here to help with. So the pictures on this slide are kind of the most common, or some of the most common, the stuff on the top is some of the most common things that government agencies purchase. So construction, public works, anything like that, janitorial, fire suppression, supplies. There's a lot of opportunities in the government marketplace for that kind of thing. And on the bottom, I have things that maybe you'd be surprised that the government buys. So for example, pet food. CHP, the California Highway Patrol, they actually have a canine unit and an equine unit as well. So they buy pet food, leashes, any kind of supplies. If you run a pet food store, they might be interested in doing business with you. Fresh fruit, produce, any type of food products. We actually had a client who came to us, had never won a federal contract before, and they had a lot of extra produce left over when COVID hit. And they ended up winning a $12 million contract with USDA to sell, to box up their produce and deliver it to food banks during COVID. So they were paid for that. This was a contract, and they performed so well on that contract that their contract was modified multiple times. They ended up with $30 million. That's kind of like a crazy story. One of our best success stories. Not every client experiences that type of success, but it's absolutely possible. And you might be wondering why there's goats on here. This is one of my favorite ones. I just also love goats so much. They're so cute, but they're actually, the government does contract with goat farmers. Goats are an eco-friendly fire suppression tool. You know, if you hire some goats, it's actually a lot more efficient and eco-friendly than going out there and mowing the lawn and things like that. So a lot of cities and counties in the state, even the federal government, actually do business with goat farmers. So like I said, the government purchases pretty much everything. Anything from pencils, toilet paper, IT, construction, and everything in between. And there's 3 levels of government. So I talked about this a little bit already: local, state, federal. Local is city or county. And every level has their own way of doing business. So they're going to have their own registration system, their own way for you to register to become a vendor. They might have their own certifications. If you're certified, we'll talk a little bit about certifications later, but if you receive a certification with the state of California, the federal government doesn't care about that. They only care about their own certifications. And then there's also quasi-governmental agencies that have similar processes, and we can help you with that too. So utilities like maybe AT&T, Comcast, PG&E, they also have their own registration processes and certifications. There's two main types of contracts. A prime contract is doing business directly with the agency. So you have a contract with the city of San Francisco. A subcontract is when you are subcontracting with someone who has a prime contract. So it's kind of like a level down. And we recommend to our clients that that's a great way to get your feet wet. If you've never had a government contract before, subcontracting is a great way to get started. And we can help you make those connections. Well, why consider government contracting? I mean, all of this sounds, I said there was lots of extra paperwork, lots of rules to learn, all these regulations, but the government actually has a lot of money and they want to give it to small businesses, minority-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses. The US government's the world's largest buyer of goods and services. And the SBA actually sets aside 23% of all opportunities for small business. That's their goal, is to spend 23% with small businesses. So that's $138 billion a year that they want to spend with small businesses. And those are certified small businesses. So you actually have to go through the process in SAM, we'll talk about it very briefly later, to tell them that you're small. You can't just, say, oh yeah, I'm pretty small, I'll apply for this contract. You actually do have to self-certify that you're small. The state of California spent $2.8 billion with a B with small businesses, certified small businesses last year. And actually they missed their goal last year. Their goal is 25%, they hit 23.5%. So they're very motivated this year to get back to the goal. They almost always meet that 25% goal. Last year, because of COVID, they didn't hit it. And this year, they're very motivated to spend with small businesses. And local governments, if you add up all the cities and counties in the nation, they actually spend more than the federal government. So, I mean, there's so many opportunities with cities and counties. And yeah, there's some, federal agencies will actually set aside contracts for small and diverse businesses. So only certified small businesses can apply, can submit a proposal for this particular contract, or only 8A firms, only hub zone firms. We'll talk a little bit about what that means later. And then the state of California, they set goals, 25% for small business, 3% for disabled veterans. And cities and counties, every city and county is different, but a lot of them have local business programs where if you live within the county or within the city, you can get certified as a local business, and they set contracting goals for those groups too. So there's a lot of opportunity. We talked a little bit about what the government buys. This is kind of the top spend when you look at federal spending. These are the categories that they spend the most on. And there's a lot here. This is pretty open. So if you are involved in any of these industries, then government contracting is probably a good fit for you. And some of them are kind of open too, right? Like consulting. Consulting could be a lot of different types of consulting that could fit in to that category. Now notice I have food and clothing on this slide. What does the government buy? Less appropriate or restricted industries. I actually have restaurants and clothing retailers on here. So I want to talk about that. These industries on this list are industries that we've identified that might be less appropriate, or in some cases, like anything federally illegal, of course, that's completely restricted. At this time, the government is not buying cannabis because it's illegal federally. It might change in the future, but that's what's going on now. And then restaurants is an interesting one. So I've had this on my slide for for years. And then I was just talking to one of my colleagues and she said, you know what? She was showing me on USA Spending, which is a program that we'll look at very briefly, that there are actually, a decent amount of contracts with restaurants. And usually it's catering. So if you own a restaurant and you provide catering, then there might be opportunities for you. But then there were also some other surprising purchases. I dug in just a little bit the other day. They were actually buying used equipment from restaurants. So equipment that was no longer needed by the restaurant. So, there could be opportunities with restaurants. Same with well-being and holistic health. That's another one that apparently, especially the VA, is starting to be more interested in. So there are some opportunities in that space too. Clothing. I mean, we just saw it on the last slide that it is something that they buy, but the very last item, luxury items, that's probably the most important here because, I mean, okay, let's say that the government wants to buy a briefcase. They're probably not going to buy the Louis Vuitton briefcase. They're spending taxpayer dollars. They need to be responsible with those funds. So, same thing with clothing. They're probably going to buy less expensive clothing. And if you own like a clothing boutique or something like that, government contracting might not be a good fit for you. Oh, this is, okay, so every agency puts out something like this. This is a list of the most common items that one particular prison, Pelican Bay State Prison up in Crescent City, purchases. But pretty much every agency, if you reach out to their small business advocate or small business specialist, will provide you with a list like this. We have a bunch of these lists on file too, we can share with you. And notice just overall how much stuff they buy and how diverse it is, right? So they're buying things like clothing. They do buy clothing. They're buying food. They're buying interpreter services, stationery, staff lodging, IT, public works, portable toilets. I mean, it's especially at the prisons, you can picture these prisons as pretty much being their own little city, and they need everything that you can imagine to operate that city. So this is just to show that there's, very diverse opportunities at these agencies. Okay, so now let's say you saw your industry on that list and you think, okay, maybe I could do this, but are you ready? So like I said, there's a lot of paperwork, a lot of rules and regulations to learn. So number one, the most important thing is, are you an established business? We have some businesses come to us with an idea. That's usually not appropriate. There's some cases that I won't get into. There's this thing called the SBIR STTR program, where basically the government is looking for innovative ideas, but most of our clients should be an established business. So you have a business license, you have all of the licenses that you might need to run your business, all of that. And does your company have a history of sales? So generally, everything I'm saying is there's no hard and fast rules for everything on this list, but generally you should have a history of sales in the commercial market. The government really looks at this, it's called past performance. And they actually prefer past performance with government agencies. So they want to see that you've already sold to other cities, counties, states, federal government. But if you don't have that, commercial market sales are good too. If you have no sales, then you're going to have less of a chance of doing business with the government. I mean, just imagine that. I'm sure there's another business out there that does something very similar to you, and they do have a history of sales. So when the government is weighing those two, they would probably select the business that has the sales. So if you don't have any sales yet, it might make sense to wait, work with your local small business development center, and build up that revenue. Can you afford to sell to the government? So the government can be, we like to say that they're a reliable customer. It's very likely that they will pay you, as opposed to maybe some other commercial, some other company. But they can be slow to pay. And it will be written into your contract. Once you're awarded a contract, it will say something like, you know, with receipt of a complete invoice, complete approved invoice or something like that, we have 45 days to pay you. But if your invoice isn't complete to their standards, so maybe it says that you need to put a 0 in box 1A and you accidentally put a 1 in box 1A, then your invoice could be rejected and that clock hasn't even stopped yet or started yet, that 45-day clock. So, you know, and if you're selling commodities, for example, if you're selling supplies, then they're going to expect that you have those supplies, that you purchase those supplies in advance, hand them over to them, and then they're going to take 45 days to pay you. So if you are a reseller or something like that, and you need to purchase those goods before handing them over, you're going to be able to have to carry that debt. So a lot of rules and regulations to follow. The FAR and the California, the FAR is the Federal Acquisition Regulation. A lot of rules about doing business with the federal government. We actually have a 4-part series on just the FAR. And the California Code of Regulations is the rules for doing business with the state. Can you spend the time required to identify agencies and buyers? So this is really important because, you know, it does take a lot of time to do the market research, to figure out who already buys what you sell, to start networking with these people, making connections. And it can be really difficult for a small business owner. We can't do that work for you. We're here to coach you, hold your hand throughout the process. But, you know, especially for the companies who are one-man shows, it can be very difficult to set aside time to do all of this work. And of course, it can be very fruitful in the end. But you need to make sure that you can spend the time and not be neglecting your other sales, your other customers and business. And we recommend that your company is e-commerce capable and has a website too. And if you have a website, we also recommend that you actually have a government contracting menu item or tab on your website so that if a government agency representative goes to your website, they can click right there and see your past performance. We can give you guidance on what exactly should go on that page. Okay, so now you've determined you're ready to do business with the government. The next step is to determine demand, which agencies already buy what you sell. And I mentioned that there's going to be a lot of links here. See, everything in orange here is a link that you can click on later and explore on your own or with your PTAC procurement specialist. Some of these sites actually provide specific price per item cost data. So even if you're not going to do business with the government, some of these sites are amazing for you to be able to study your competitors and see what they're charging for the same product or service. So here's a list of the federal sites, the state sites. We actually have a couple webinars. Oh yeah, there's links here at the bottom on using some of these sites. And Nancy's webinar yesterday covered, I think most, if not all of these sites. And that's posted on our website, norcalptac.org/webinars. I'm going to show you a couple screenshots on the next slide of what these systems look like. But you can also, once you get the slides, you can click and explore on your own. We also have something called GovSpend. That's something that we pay for and we provide for free to our clients. And that's aggregated data. So let me step back. I don't think I explained that all of these sites, federal and state, they give you past award data. So everything's public. You can see for years and years back who was awarded the contract and for how much. And some give you even more specific data. So on GovSpend, instead of going to all these different sites, it aggregates the data from federal, state, cities, counties, and even school districts all in one place. So you can do a search that's just like mayonnaise. And you can find out which agencies bought mayonnaise, how much they spent on it, who did they buy it from. A lot of really good information there. And all of this information is public, but using GovSpend means it's all aggregated in one place. So you don't have to go to many websites for that. FedMine is something that we are subscribing to soon. We don't have access to it yet, but it will also provide a lot of subcontractor data on the federal side. We're really excited about that. Oh, go to .gov sites only, not .com. So with the exception of, I was just talking about GovSpend, I believe that they are a .com, but they're a .com because they're a paid service. We pay for them. Once you start doing business with the government, there's a lot of scams. There's a lot of people out there that are trying to get your money. Just know that it's always free to do business with the government, except for a couple very rare instances for certain industries. And if anyone ever asks you to pay them, just send us an email and we'll tell you, forward us the email, we'll tell you that's a scam or that actually is legit. Generally, you only want to be going to .gov sites. You can trust the .gov sites. Okay, just a couple of screenshots. So this is Skippers. This is the Cal eProcure State of California site for past awards. And this shows that the Department of Corrections and Rehab purchased toilet paper. They purchased a lot of it. 1,200 cases. Let's see my mouse. 1,200 cases at $25.15 per case. And they actually give you this information here. It was 2-ply toilet paper, 550 sheets per roll, 80 rolls per case. I think this is probably the size, maybe in inches. It seems like a toilet paper roll, individually wrapped. So like, look how specific that is. So if you sell toilet paper, you would probably be really familiar with all this. And you could say, oh, I have 2-ply toilet paper. Mine actually has 600 sheets per roll, and I have more rolls in my case or less or whatever it is. If you can provide something similar to this person, to this agency, maybe you can sell a similar product at, this was $25.15 a case. Maybe you can sell it for $25.10 a case. Then you can reach out to Kara right here and let her know. Say, I see that you're spending $25.15 a case. I can actually sell it to you for even less, and let's talk. GSA Advantage is one that, GSA schedules is something I'm not going to get into at all today. It's kind of an advanced topic for once you get more comfortable in the government market. But the GSA Advantage marketplace is a great place for market research for anybody. You can basically think of it as the Amazon.com for the government. So you have to apply to get on the GSA schedule. So everyone who is on here, all these contractors, they had to go through this arduous process to get listed here. But now they're listed and there's very specific information, right? So let's say that you sold Rust-Oleum. I just pulled this one random item. Rust-Oleum in a satin finish. Here's even the manufacturer part number. So you can know if you sell this exact item, then perfect. Then you can compare your prices. Look, here's their prices. Here's what they're selling it to the government for. So you can use this in two ways, right? Like maybe you say, oh, wow, like I could sell it for $4 each. I could sell it for way less. This is great. Maybe I should get a GSA schedule, or maybe I should reach out to, we can look and do some market research to find out who's been purchasing at $4.44 each. Or alternatively, you might say, oh man, I sell this for $10 a bottle. There is no way I can compete. So it doesn't make sense for me to spend time on government contracts. The last one is GovSpend. So this is the one I talked to you about, that aggregates data that we have access to. So if you're a PTAC client, we can walk you through it and show you this. But again, it's showing you very specific price per item data. So I think the search that I did was for surge protectors. Yep. So you can see that, I try to blur out when there's small business names, but I can see here, I don't mind saying this first one is Office Depot, these large businesses. So if you see one of these large businesses, Office Depot, Amazon, and you see that an agency is using them, you review that maybe you also have 6-foot surge protectors with 6 outlets, and you can sell them for less than $17.23 at this quantity, then you should reach out to them. I mean, they're going to be even more motivated to purchase from a small business if they have small business goals. And when we can click on this information right here, and we can get more information for the buyer, who's purchasing this, their email address, how often do they purchase it. So you can see that, I mean, this is only a few records. This is from 2019 too. This is pretty old. But South Bay Union School District, San Diego Community College, City of Oakland, these are all places that if you sell surge protectors, you should be reaching out to them and letting them know. Okay, so let's pause. I want to see if there's any questions so far. James, can we look at the chat?
Yeah, it looks like we got 3 questions right now. So as a reminder, you can put your questions in the Q&A bubble anytime you want, and we will get to them at these Q&As. So the first one comes from Abdul. I wanted to see if Canadian registered companies can work with those opportunities. We've recently been registered with SAM.
So I don't totally understand your question. I mean, you can certainly, as a Canadian registered company, do business with the US government. You can do business with the state of California. You can't get these certifications per se. Like I know in the state of California, you must be domiciled in California. But cities, counties, states, federal government, they buy from foreign companies all the time. If you're asking about, can you work with the PTAC? Then unfortunately the answer is no. The PTAC is a US taxpayer funded program, and we can only accept, for us, we can only accept clients within the 15 county region that we serve that James showed you earlier. And all the other PTACs, they have really specific regions that they can work with.
All right, good answer. Thanks. And Kelly's asking, how do you self-certify? And I think that this was back when we were talking about the federal government.
Yeah, okay. So you would self-certify in SAM based on your NAICS code. I think I talk about this briefly later, but your PTAC specialist can walk you through the process. SAM is, I don't want to get into it too much because I'll give a little foreshadow. It's not fun. It's a lot of work and a lot of lingo that's difficult to understand. So you're welcome to, of course, plenty of people go through it themselves, but your PTAC procurement specialist can help you, walk you through the process. And it's really just, you can look at your NAICS code and your revenue and your number of employees and what you do and determine if you are small. And if you are small, you check the box, yes.
All right, great. And Caden, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, with FS Global. How does one get involved with FEMA directly? Currently, we interface through the state and local governments. However, we would really like to get involved directly with FEMA. Are there any lists that we can work to get put on or to get call outs from FEMA?
So this is not my specialty, but I can give you a couple tips. First, we did a webinar. I'm trying to remember when it was. I think it was in January. So it would be on our norcalptac.org/webinars page. And it was something about disaster opportunities. And Christina Jones talks about getting registered with to do business in these disaster situations. One of them is simply in your SAM profile that I was just talking about. There's a box you can check to say, yes, I'd like to be contacted if there's an emergency. But that's not, there's so much more to it than that. There's a lot of marketing involved. I mean, it depends exactly what you want to help with. Like with the fires right now, they do have lists that you can get on. That's for the US Forest Service. For the hurricanes, what usually happens is they will hire a large prime contractor to manage the work. And so we just need to figure out who is that large prime contractor that's working on that specific hurricane. and then we want to help you get a subcontract with them. So that wouldn't be working directly with FEMA. But then also, I mean, FEMA also just posts right on SAM. They post opportunities there. And especially during disasters, they'll have very short time frames. So we actually had a client, this was a couple years ago when there was that fire in Reading. There was an opportunity, this client sold RVs and FEMA wanted to buy a bunch of RVs. And when there's a local emergency, they often want to buy from local businesses. So it will be set aside for businesses in Shasta County. And I think that solicitation was posted for like 2 days, 48 hours. So he had to rush to put it all together. So anyway, that's more than you need to know, but also nowhere near the amount of information that there is about this stuff. Sign up to be a PTAC client and we can work with you specifically.
Okay, great. And she mentioned some webinars there in the past. I put the link to our webinars page. We have a Q&A session from May of 2020 with FEMA, and we've got some other ones on wildland firefighting opportunities. So just peruse. Okay, Deonti is asking, this is a bit about the bit of a paradox here. If you don't have experience working with government agencies, how can we get experience working with the government to build your resume?
That is a great question. Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's impossible, right? But what we suggest is starting small. So either with cities and counties, they're more likely to take on businesses who don't have experience. And remember that you can use your commercial experience as past performance. It's not as good as government experience, but you can use other sales in the commercial market. And then of course, subcontracting is the other way to get in. So again, you can work with your PTAC specialist with your specific situation, but it is possible. We have plenty of clients who have never worked with an agency and they do win their first contract.
All right, thanks, Christina. Peter is asking, is there a revenue limit that a small business must have to work with the government? Presumably he means under the rubric of being a small business.
No, to be a small, no, to work with the government.
Oh, is there a revenue minimum? I was thinking a maximum cap for certification. Okay, a minimum.
No, as far as I know, I mean, there might be, you never know what's going to be in a contract. There might be some RFP out there that says you can't bid on this unless you have this kind of revenue. I don't know. But generally you should have some revenue, because remember, it costs money to do, I mean, you're going to have to put up money up front to do business with the government. So if you sell products, you're going to have to buy those products and finance those products in advance and wait to get paid. And if you sell services, you're going to have to pay your employees and then wait to get paid. So there's no specific revenue minimum, but we do recommend that you have some revenue and enough working capital to be able to handle those payment delays.
And by the way, it's your judgment on timing. Let me know if you want to move on. We have another Q&A as well. So
yeah, I think did we set aside 90 minutes today? I think we did.
I believe so, yeah.
So this is good. Let's keep going for now.
Okay, Karina's asking, is there a separate system that indicates or shows the purchase of services? So you've shown products only. And for example, specifically furniture repairs and restorations. That's not the same as custodial or janitorial.
It's not a separate system. So, that's just by chance. And I apologize now. I realized that I did only show supplies on those screenshots, but all of those systems that I showed you also have records of the purchase of services. Every purchase that the government makes is public information. So any of the systems that I talked about will also have information on furniture repairs and restoration. And we can do those searches with you, for you, or you can click on the links when you get the slides later.
Right. DeMichael Scott is asking, are nonprofits able to apply for government contracts?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it will say it might say on the RFP, nonprofits are eligible and nonprofits are not eligible. All of this stuff is read the RFP, because everyone is different. But yeah, you do need to, if you're doing business with the federal government, you do still need to register in SAM. Our host, Humboldt State University Sponsored Programs Foundation, is a nonprofit. We are registered in SAM, and we have applied for and won government contracts.
And maybe a little addendum, while that's true, PTACs cannot work with nonprofits. So
Correct.
You could win contracts, but unfortunately, you're not eligible for PTAC services.
Thank you, James.
All right, Deonti's saying thanks. Thanks, Deonti, for joining. Let me just, I think Newman's question there was covered pretty well by your previous question. Just asking about how to build up experience. I think start small was the message, right?
Yep.
Okay. Terry's asking, are there in-person meetings or seminars for federal contracting?
Yeah, so I think if you're asking about through PTAC, right now, everything that we're doing is virtual. At some point, we do plan to go back to having in-person seminars like this. We used to do it all the time. We would travel throughout our 15 county region and put on seminars. You know, at this point, the earliest we'd be doing that is in January, and we're going to play it by ear based on what happens here with COVID. Same with in-person meetings. If you're in the Bay Area specifically, we do have 3 procurement specialists who live in San Francisco, San Ramon, and Newark, and they can meet with you in person when it's safe.
All right. Thanks everyone for the good questions. Keep them coming. We'll have another Q&A at the end, and welcome to get back to it, Christina.
Okay, so that was about the halfway point. I have about 15, 20 minutes left, maybe a little past the halfway point. So very briefly, I'm just going to talk about how to get registered in these different systems. First, the state of California is, oh, what's happening? It was I went to the next slide too quickly. The state of California, you first want to identify your UNSPSC codes. This is just an industry code, and if you've heard of NAICS codes, it's just like that. It's similar to that, but it's what the state uses as their primary source. They actually do recognize NAICS codes sometimes too, but you're going to want to know your UNSPSC codes if you want to do business with the state. We can help you identify those. Also, there's a link here. You can just click on it and start typing in keywords for what you do and identifying the codes that make sense for your business. Register for a vendor as a vendor, and anyone can register as a vendor. So that Canadian company that reached out earlier, you can register as a vendor. And if you want to do business with the state, you must register as a vendor. If you're a large business, you'd also register as a vendor. That's the first step for anyone who wants to do business with the state. But then if you're eligible, the next step is getting certified as a small business. There's also this small business public works certification that basically allows you to get the small business certification. So you still can call yourself an SB, but you're allowed to have higher revenue. Or a disabled veteran business enterprise. So if you're a disabled veteran and you're the owner of a business, you can apply for that certification. All of this stuff, the state process is really straightforward. We're happy to walk you through it. You can also do it on your own. And it's generally you could get registered as a vendor, certified same day. I'd say like 95% of the applications that we help with, excluding DVBE. DVBE does take a little more time for them to verify that you're actually who you say you are. But if you're just applying for small business, registering as a vendor, you can get certified most of the time same day, unless maybe there was some type of error on your application. We can help with that. Or I think that they pick a handful of them to audit. So if you get unlucky, you might not get certified same day. And you are eligible as a brand new business. So this is something that as long as your business is established, you got your business license, your EIN, all that stuff that the SBDC can help with, then you can register as a vendor, you can get certified with the state. It does not mean necessarily that you will win a contract, but you will then be eligible to bid on contracts. The federal process is a little more complicated. So you want to define your NAICS codes first. And Nancy Pigeon actually did a webinar on this a few months ago. I have a link to that webinar here. Next step is getting a DUNS number. So this is just a distinct identifying number that you need before you register in SAM. And this is what the process is right now, is contacting Dun & Bradstreet to request a number. This is free, especially you got to check that box for I'm applying because I want to be a federal contractor or something like that. DUNS tries to sell you some stuff. You don't need to buy any of it. It is 100% free to get a DUNS number. Now, DUNS is transitioning away. There's a new system called UEI, Unique Entity Identifier. And if you're registered in SAM already, then you already have a UEI. You might not even know it. Just log into your system and you'll see your UEI there. They've assigned everybody who was already registered in SAM a UEI. So eventually this DUNS thing is going away. Right now they're saying spring of 2022, but the current process is get a DUNS number first. And right now we actually have direct access. So it usually takes a couple days once you request from DUNS. But if you have some type of urgent need, we actually can call DUNS on your behalf, request a DUNS number, and get one on the same day for you. We have a direct line to them. The next step is registering in SAM. I talked about this already a little bit. It's a lot of pages, a lot of complex lingo for you to understand. We're happy to explain it to you line by line, explain what you're agreeing to. They're going to ask for your banking information. It usually takes at least an hour or two for us to walk through it with you. And at the end, you submit a notarized letter. That last step is fairly new. It came up in the last couple of years, but you don't want to forget to do that because your SAM account will become inactive if you forget. And as soon as you register on SAM, you're going to start getting emails from scammers. Remember that doing business with the government is always free. It's almost always free, 99.9% of the time. So if you ever get an email from someone that says, you must pay me or your SAM registration is going to go away or something like that, that's a scam. You never have to pay to register in SAM, period. So anytime you get one of those emails telling you to pay for anything, forward it to us and we'll let you know. Forward it to your procurement specialist. We'll let you know if it's legit, and most of the time it is not. We have a webinar coming up on this, completing your small business profile through SBA's general login system or through there's a link in SAM too. So this is a really important step that many businesses miss. So I said that the SAM registration is like, it could take hours and there's so many pages. And by the end, you're just like, oh, I'm done. Okay, turn off my computer, go take a nap or go have a cup of coffee or glass of wine. But what you really need to do, there's one more step for small businesses. If you self-certify that you're a small business, if you check the box based on your NAICS code, then you're automatically in this DSBS system, Dynamic Small Business Search. But I'll show you on the next page. This is a DSBS search I just did the other day. I'm trying to remember, I think I was just doing Humboldt businesses that are in DSBS. So these are people, everyone here has self-certified that they are small. And this system is used by government agencies looking to purchase products or services. Government agencies doing market research to see if they can set aside a business or set aside a contract for women-owned small businesses only. You can search for only certified businesses on this DSBS search. It's also used by prime contractors when they're trying to find small and diverse certified businesses. So let's say you're a prime contractor, you use DSBS, you put everything in, like which business would you choose or which business would you not choose? I wouldn't choose this one or this one or this one or this one because I had no idea what they do. They didn't fill in their capabilities narrative. and this is that last step that I was talking about. So again, your procurement specialist can help you do it. Nancy's doing a webinar on this in October, and we actually just did a webinar on a different part of it in August, and that's already on our webinar slide. But it's really important. I mean, if you don't have a capabilities narrative, people are just going to scan right past you and you're losing out on opportunities. So how do you find opportunities? Again, I mean, so much of this is just public information. So this is the link to the states, Cali Procure, CSCR. You can just search through the database for open solicitations in your industry, register for email alerts. There's also, again, we do a whole webinar series on doing business with the state and walk through the registration and finding opportunities, lots of screenshots on what to do. We have a couple of those recorded, and we do them at least a couple times a year with the Department of General Services. But there's so many opportunities here. I mean, you can also, so someone asked earlier, like, how can I get started if I don't have any experience? We said subcontracting. So one really cool thing on CSCR is that you can, if you find an opportunity for maybe a large contract, maybe it's a construction contract. I think that client did cleaning of some kind. So maybe as part of the contract, there's cleaning involved. You can post an ad basically on the solicitation and say, hey, you should get certified first, so that you can say, hey, I am XYZ Cleaning. My small business certification number is 12345. Here's why I would be great to be a subcontractor on this project. Here's my contact information. So you can post on there so that and this is free, every prime contractor or anybody who looks at that solicitation will see your ad. And federal, so now all contract opportunities have merged over to sam.gov, and all opportunities over $25,000 are posted there. Most opportunities, sometimes there's emergency solicitations that are not posted there. You can register for email alerts too. Every city and county has their own procurement site, and you'll need to register for each of them if you want to be notified of upcoming opportunities. And then for smaller purchases, which I think, a lot of small businesses fall into the smaller purchases category, and it's really all about marketing yourself, letting these buyers, advocates, small business specialists know that you exist, that you're out there, that you're certified, that you have the capacity, the capability to do whatever it is that you do. There's no way. I mean, there's a lot of things that are happening that are never posted anywhere. They're just a credit card swipe because it's a small enough purchase. They're not going to do that credit card swipe with you unless they know who you are. We can help you identify these people to get to know and talk to you about what to say to them, how to introduce yourself to them. Oh, these are links to, and we have even more on our website. These are links to all of the different county procurement sites within our region, our 15 county region. There's also on our website, we have most of the larger cities too, but really all you need to do, no matter where you live, just Google the city or the county name plus the word purchasing or the word procurement, and you'll find it. Okay, so this is the slide that every single one of these links could be its own 1 or 2 hour presentation. There's a lot of information here. Again, I'm going to give you very high level information about it. These are all certifications that you can get to, or some of them aren't technically certifications, but they're similar, to set yourself apart, to decrease the competition pool. Because agencies, they set aside contracts. We talked about that a little bit already. They set goals or prioritize certified businesses. Like when you do business with the state of California, they have some contracts where, let's say you bid 105 no, $100,000 on a contract, but you're a certified small business, they'll have language in there that says if you're a certified small business, you get a 5% discount. So what that means is you bid 100,000. Let's say some other guy who's not a certified small business also bid, maybe they even bid 99,000, so slightly less than you. But you're a certified small business, he's not, you get the 5% discount. So what happens is they subtract 5% from your 100,000. Now you're down to 95,000. You have the lowest bid now. You won that contract. But even better, they don't pay you 95,000, they pay you 100,000. They pay you your original bid. It's this like extra, and this isn't on all contracts with the state. It will be actually written into the RFP, but there's a lot of opportunities like that. So we recommend that you get certified if you're eligible. And basically, if you are small, if you are women-owned, veteran-owned, minority-owned, in some other way disadvantaged, there's a certification for you. And there's lots of links here to explore, or you can explore with your procurement specialist. For all, it must be 51% owned and controlled. So this is a big one. We have some people who come to us and they say, oh, we're a women-owned business because on paper, my wife operates this company. She's 100% owner. But maybe the wife isn't actually, she has like another job and she's doing work as a, I don't know, a manager of some other consultant firm. Like she's not on site doing the work for this business. So these are all, everything on here, except for anything that you self-certify, like they'll look into it and they want to make sure that the woman or the minority or the veteran is actually owns and controls the company. A capability statement is a marketing tool for your business when you're doing business with the government. So this is a one-page resume for your business. And when we say one page, it can be front and back. It just needs to print on one page. We have a couple webinars on this, we even have a template on our website, and there's a link to that there. But basically, we recommend that this is your tool to hand to a government personnel involved in purchasing the very first time you meet them, or email it to them if you're not meeting them in person. Here's what it includes on the left. And yeah, we recommend that it's audience-based. So if you are interested in doing business with the feds and the state, then you might have one capability statement that lists your NAICS codes, and you send that one to the feds. And that one you include your federal past performance if you have any. And then for your other one, for the state, you list your UNSPSC codes, you don't list your NAICS codes, and you list more state experience. Or, I mean, even more specifically, we have been talking to one of the CSUs lately, the California State Universities, and we found out that they have a preference for businesses who have already done business with another CSU. So if you are trying to do business with a CSU, I recommend that you have a capability statement that if you have past performance with a CSU, it's included on there for sure. Even if maybe it's the smallest job you ever did, but that maybe should be the very first one that you list because that's very important to them. Or maybe you did business with a UC or a community college, you know, the best, you always do like the best that you can do to get their attention. And these government personnel are inundated with contractors wanting to get government work. The reviewer will form their opinion of your business from this single document. So it's really important you don't have any spelling errors. It's formatted correctly and professionally. That whatever it is you want to tell them is real easy to read. It pops out. We recommend that you put your past performance on page 1, for example, because who knows, they might not even flip it over. And past performance is one of the most important parts of this. So yeah, we have a webinar that goes over this in more detail, and we actually have a template. You can also just Google's great, right? You can just Google capability statement statement of qualifications, things like that. And you can find other templates and you can do one that matches with your style, with your business. So then once you have all this done, you have your capability statement ready, then you can reach out to these small business specialists, advocates, and buyers. And every agency, every federal agency has what's called a small business specialist. Every state agency has what's called a small business advocate. And every agency has buyers. And their contact information, especially the small business specialists and advocates, is very readily available. A lot of buyer information is pretty readily available too. I was showing you some buyer information on skippers, on any of the websites that show past contract data. You can get buyer information. So we recommend you send them your capability statement and prepare some type of elevator speech. Really quickly, what you do. These people don't have time to hear your whole life story. They don't have time to hear, a big long email about your whole life. They want to hear what your business does and why they should work with you in 30 seconds or less. So when I say speech, if this is an email, then it should still be like, you should still picture it as, if I was saying this out loud, this should take 30 seconds or less to read. And you should have that ready to go. Like, you never know who you're going to run into at a networking event, or I don't know, even the supermarket. Like, it's good to have your elevator speech ready to go. And that's for any type of business, not just government contracting. Attend networking events. This is where you can meet these small business specialists, advocates, and buyers. We put on a lot of these. Right now, they're all virtual, but we're hoping to get them back to in-person in the future. And follow up regularly. So just because you sent one email and you never hear back, don't cry. You should reach out to them again. Maybe try a different method of communication next time. Maybe give them a call. And make sure that they know who you are. You don't want to creep them out. You don't want to call them every single day. Don't do that. That's going to make them not like you at all and not want to do business with you. But it is appropriate if you sent one email, maybe a month later, a few weeks later, you follow up with a phone call and say, hey, I'm just checking in. I sent you this email the other day. Wanted to make sure you received it. Get ready with your elevator speech real quick while you have them on the phone. And if they contact you, respond. This is really important, and we hear this all the time. So maybe you did get on their list, and now they send something out. We just had CDCR. This was like a month ago. CDCR was looking for condoms and dental dams. So very specific products that not a lot of people sell, right? And they sent it out to everyone on their list that could possibly, they cast the net pretty wide, and they only got a handful of responses. If you get something like that, I mean, it could be like totally off base, right? Maybe you do construction and they're asking you if you sell condoms and dental dams. Don't ignore that. Now, all of a sudden, you just got their attention. So you must respond. You have to say, thank you so much for reaching out. Unfortunately, we do not sell condoms and dental dams, but here is what we do. We are the best construction firm this side of the Mississippi. And here's our past performance, and here's our capability statement. Like, now you have their attention. And we hear this all the time, that after, like, if an advocate or a buyer has reached out to you multiple times and doesn't hear anything, they might just take you off their list. They're not going to send you any opportunities anymore. So maybe those first 2 or 3 opportunities weren't the right fit for you. Maybe the 4th one would have been, but now you're not even on their list anymore. Find more opportunities. James talked about this a little bit. This is a service through the Norcal PTAC. It's a free bid matching service. And basically, your procurement specialist can set up a private page and set up a profile. It's based on your NAICS codes or your keywords, locations, where you want to do business. And you'll get a page where bids are posted, and you'll get email notifications every time a new bid is posted, typically daily. It searches federal, state, local, hospitals, subcontracts, foreign opportunities. So it aggregates them all in one place so that you don't have to go around searching from like 100 different databases of all the different agencies you might want to do business with. And usually what we do with our clients is we start wide and we hone in. So if you do, I just kind of want to warn you, if you sign up for this, or maybe you're already a client, you have a bid match profile, the very first one you get, we hope will have way too many opportunities. So many that you're like, this is crazy and I don't do any of this stuff. But then the idea is, okay, talk to your procurement specialist and show them, here's why this one's not a good fit for me. Here's why this one's not a good fit for me. And then we can start honing in and subtracting like those types of words that show up in those types of opportunities from your profile. We still don't ever want, like, we don't expect that your bid match profile, if you get 10 opportunities, that all 10 are going to be a perfect fit. We would rather give you 10 opportunities and only 5 are a good fit than give you 1 opportunity that is a good fit and then you just missed out on the other 4 because we were too restrictive with the keywords. And there are a lot of other online databases that you can sign up for. Some of them you have to pay for. Ours is completely free, but I will say ours is not all inclusive. And we do recommend that you sign up for a couple of these, the other free ones if you can, or paid ones if you want to pay. Yeah, the more you use, the more comprehensive your results are going to be. These are the free services that we provide. It's really just anything related to government contracting, federal, state, local. We haven't even talked about tribal government contracting. And it's everything from the time when you're deciding, should I be a government contractor? So we can do that market research with you, all the way to bidding on the award and then post-award as well. So now you've actually won the contract. We can help you submit your invoices, provide support for anything after the award as well. And we have one-on-one coaching for that. And, oh, this is our team. I love this photo. So there are 12 of us, actually 1 person is missing on this photo right now. 8 are procurement specialists, and these people are just experts in their field. So every time I put out a job posting, we search the entire nation to find the best, the brightest, the most experienced people. And this government contracting thing, it's really a niche thing, right? Like not a lot of people have this experience. Most of the procurement specialists on our team actually are former government contracting officers themselves, or small business specialists or small business advocates. So they have this insider knowledge. They've been a buyer or they've been inside the government related to buying in some way. And now they want to share that information with you. And a couple of them are actually former government contractors themselves. So they were successful running their own businesses, winning government contracts, and now they're ready to help you. And I just want to post this slide. So James already covered this slide, but I wanted to repeat it again. If now you're like, oh, I'm so excited about government contracting, I want to learn more, you can sign up at norcalptac.org or find your local PTAC here. And again, the green area is our service area. But if you're outside that service area, no problem, just find your local PTAC. Okay, so some final tips. You want to get registered as a vendor with all entities ASAP with who you might want to do business with. So if you've decided that you want to do business with the state, just go get registered and certified right now, this week. Just get it done. And SAM, especially, SAM's something that once you register, you got to get your DUNS number and you got to wait for it. And then you got to register in SAM and you got to wait for who knows how long. It's usually a couple weeks before they give you what's called a cage code after you're registered. So the more you get registered in these systems, then, if an RFP is posted and it's related to something you do, it's going to be that much easier to bid on that. And we have people come to us all the time that say, I really want to bid on this contract, but I'm not registered. I want to bid on this federal contract, but I'm not yet registered in SAM. And so we look through the RFP because sometimes it will say you must have an active registration in SAM. Sometimes it will say like you must have started the process, but that's more rare. They want you to be registered and active. So you're just going to have, like, as soon as you get registered, then you can start bidding on opportunities and looking for opportunities. You don't want to miss out. Get certified, get all the certifications you can if you're eligible, with the caveat that only if they're relevant or useful. So there's some, like the DBE certification, for example, is something that's really only useful for construction, A&E, maybe janitorial. There's some other industries where it's relevant. But if you own a restaurant, it probably doesn't make sense for you to get DBE certified, because the DBE certification is specifically used on federal highway projects. You're probably not going to be bidding on those contracts. And the DBE certification takes a lot of time. Like if we used to print it out, I think we're still, I haven't done one in a while. I think you can submit electronically now. I don't want to say because I don't know. When we did print them out, the stack would be this thick. So don't waste your time on stuff like that you're not going to use. You are a busy business owner and you don't have time for all that. We can help you determine, does it make sense for me to get this certification? Make sure you do your research, know your competitors. We didn't really talk about this that much, but on, I bet Nancy talked about it yesterday on the Finding Opportunities site webinar, that all of those sites where you see past awards, you're seeing who won that award. And now you know who your competitors are and you know what their pricing is. So that's really important to putting together your own pricing too. Make sure you're familiar with the agencies who purchase what you sell. So that's the market research things we talked about. And relationship building is key, because you're never going to know about those smaller credit card opportunities unless you know who the people are who are swiping their credit card. And don't be afraid to start small. So we talked about this: cities, counties, states, subcontracting. That can boost your past performance record. You could even, if you can afford it, donate your time if possible. I hesitate to say this because, a lot of businesses, you simply can't afford to do that. We don't want you going out of business because you're donating all your time. But if that's something that you can afford to do, and maybe on a very small scale, that could create past performance too. And of course, contact your local PTAC for free assistance. And I'm going to pass it back to James for a couple slides, and then we'll do some more Q&A.
Okay, so I'm just going to put into the chat right now, before I forget, that we do have a survey that we, if this was in person, we would hand it out and have you sign it. Instead, it's just a link to a Google form. So I'm going to put them in the chat now. If you could just let us know how you felt about the webinar today. It makes a big difference for us and for our funders. So very nice. So today is National PTAC Day. We mentioned this earlier. If you have worked with PTAC, you can, and you've had some success, you can show your support today by sharing your PTAC experience on your favorite social media platform. And then you can see there's the @Norcal PTAC or #PTAC Day. You can also use our PTAC Day social media sign, and I will post this. We're sending out the slides later today, so you'll get the hyperlink there. And you can check out our recent client stories. We have some success stories about clients that we've helped over the years and recently. So I believe, let's see if I can still control this. Yes. There we go. We have some upcoming events. So this is a 3-part series for the PTAC Day. And tomorrow we've got an event called Behind the Curtain on Federal Small Business Set-asides. We have 2 very friendly people from the SBA who are going to be showing us behind the curtain on that. So please join tomorrow if you're at all interested in doing business with the federal government. Christina touched on set-asides earlier, but it's a good topic to know if you want looking into certifications. Speaking of certifications, on October 4th, October is Women's Business Month. So we have certifications for women-owned business on October 4th, SBA general login system for ProNet and Subnet. That name might change, but that's on October 19th. Then we've got 2 more certification webinars. The first is on DDE and the second is on WOSB. That is the woman-owned small business certification. So you can find all of these on our calendar at norcalptac.org/calendar. And it looks like they all start at 10 a.m. So that's our typical time. And these are always free to join and free for everyone to join. So you don't even have to be in the country. So please check those out. And I believe we have some time for questions now. So keep them coming. I see 2 questions in there right now. So let me get started with the first. Jeremy's asking, when researching potential contracts, for instance, construction, many have licensing requirements. Does this apply to the primes only, or does it also include any subs?
You know, I am not going to answer that question because I'm not a construction expert. We do have a construction expert on our team. I think that it usually explicitly says if it needs to. Yeah, you know, I don't want to do any guessing here. So it's possible that the rules flow down to the subs. But let me check in with our public works specialist. And Jeremy, I will get back to you.
You're also welcome to reach out to us. So we have your contact information. Ours is on the page there. So that's our number. That's our email address. All right. Bob Arlen has a specific question. I'm going to see if we can, so if I wanted to bid on a government contract and I won it based on a lower price for services, what happens if the original scope of work was not accurate and I need to place a change order to accommodate the extra hours and pay required to complete the job? Would this somehow get reflected on my profile or record and possibly hurt future chances for government contracting? So basically, do I need to worry about taking on contracts that might entail more than what was initially requested? For instance, wildfire monitoring.
You don't want to do this on purpose. You don't want to bid competitively at a price that you know you can't afford with the idea that later you're going to try to submit some type of modification. I mean, if in the original contract it says there's going to be wildfire monitoring, then there's really no reason the contracting officer would have to allow for additional payment for wildfire monitoring. Like, it was in the original scope of work. But if you're saying if it would entail more than what was initially requested, I mean, I don't know. This is a pretty specific situation. I would recommend that you reach out to your procurement specialist or apply for the PTAC closest to you and talk to them one-on-one about this specific situation. You do want to worry. I just want to warn everyone that if you do perform poorly on a contract, it is reflected on your record, your permanent record. There is a system called CPARS with the federal government, where it's basically they review you after your performance. The state, I don't think they have something like that, but there is word of mouth, you know, and they can see there is public record that you performed on a contract. They all know each other. So they might call that person and say, hey, how'd that guy do? I mean, if it's a valid claim, though, if there was something that was not within the original scope and things changed, it's valid. It's completely valid to submit a modification. Just don't go into the contract planning to do that. That would be my advice.
All right. Thanks, Christina. Christopher's asking, do you have any tips on understanding differences between sources sought, pre-solicitation, solicitation when searching for environmental consulting opportunities on SAM? Or can you speak to any tips on scanning the listings that have updated dates, published dates that have passed in the past 2 years? Are these older listings typically negligible or unuseful as far as information and for inquiry with the person of contact?
So as to your last question, the older listings are great for finding out who the POC is, right? Because if they're soliciting that, if they solicited that 2 years ago, they're probably going to solicit it again. And some of these agencies actually have forecasts that they put out where they will say specifically that, you know, in 2019, and then every 2 years afterwards, we're going to put out a solicitation for X. So you can identify, you can even, you might know that there's going to be another solicitation this year. Look back at that past information and reach out to that point of contact. Understanding the differences between them all, I think we could do an entire webinar. And I forget, I mean, we have, I think it's been a while since we've done one like that. We should do one soon. The differences between sources sought, pre-solicitation, solicitation. They're all different, and I don't want to get into all of that today, but your procurement specialist can help you understand that. And I will make a note that we should do a webinar. We could talk about that kind of stuff for an hour.
All right. And I'm not sure I understand this question, but maybe you do. Lucretia is asking, will the upcoming certification dates be listed on the SBA website?
I don't understand that question. The certification dates. No. So Lakeisha, if you want to clarify that question, you're actually our last question right now, but we can stick around for a couple more minutes. The certification dates, like the certifications for that the SBA handles, like women-owned, HubZone, those are open on a rolling basis. You can submit your certification at any time. There's not like a deadline to submit your certification. Oh, great. Perfect, answered.
Perfect. All right, anyone else have any questions? I'll do another pitch for the survey that I put in the chat. You'll also be directed there towards the end once I end the webinar. You'll be redirected, so. Our last call for questions. If you have anything afterwards, you can reach out to us, especially if you're in our service area, then we can get you on board as a client.
I'm just going to glance, James, since we have a couple more minutes. I see that people entered questions in the chat. You should be entering them into the Q&A, but I can see some of these we did not answer. Someone said that they worked as a community college as an individual. Can I add that experience to the business, even though I did not have the business at that time? Yes. So if you do not have any past performance with the government past performance is what you want. That's the best. Include your government past performance. If you do not have government past performance, include commercial past performance. So that's with sales that your business made in the commercial market. And if you don't have that, then the next best thing, it's better to put something than nothing, right? This doesn't mean you're going to win the contract with this information, but I do recommend if what you're doing is, maybe you just started an engineering firm, so you don't have any sales yet, but you worked as an engineer for someone else for 20 years. That's good information to have. Put that on your capability statement. But once you start getting all of that past performance with government agencies, then that should go to the bottom or eventually, be less visible. The past performance with government agencies is most important.
Right. And I see there's one from P. Williams, but I feel like we've covered that, but you're welcome to add more if you'd like.
Yeah, and I'll repeat, should you volunteer to get past performance? If you can afford it, that's a possibility. I wouldn't start with that though. Like first try to get some paid work. You deserve it. Try to get some type of, subcontracting opportunity, small city or county opportunity. We have clients who win a contract, but it's just a purchase order for $50 or something. Like that's a start. Start small, will help.
Okay, so.
And what if it was past performance in a different industry? So what you're trying to prove, and I think what you're talking about is like your capability statement. What you're trying to prove on your capability statement is that you're capable to do what you're saying you're going to do now. So I don't know if you're working in IT now is it relevant? I mean, you'll have to ask yourself this question. Is it relevant that you did financial statement auditing? I mean, what you want to prove to them is that you are capable of doing IT stuff. So you want to provide the information to show that you're capable of that. I don't know. I don't know enough about financial statement auditing. If it's related, I'm leaning towards no, that wouldn't be relevant. But I think you can make that decision. That looks like it, James.
Yeah, I think the timing is good and everything. Okay, all right. Well, thanks. As we've mentioned a couple times, I will be sharing the slides as well as the video recording that we've been making today. So those will be emailed out later this afternoon and published to our website, where we keep an archive of all of our past webinars going back to like 2017. So do check out this one and the others if you want to review. And this will have all the hyperlinks so you can click on the slides, which is pretty nice. And we're going to redirect you to our survey when you leave, or it's also in the chat. So let us know what you thought about the webinar today. And if you're in our service area, sign up. If not, look up your local PTAC and see you at future events. Thank you so much, Christina, for putting all the research for this. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.